Where do the LA Kings stack up on the wings compared to other Pacific Division teams? And do any Kings wingers rank in the top 10 in the division? We explore that and more on this edition of Locked On LA Kings.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Kings fans, welcome to Locked On LA Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On LA Kings your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Football season's right around the corner. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your future bets now. My name is Eddie Garcia. I'm your host of Locked On LA Kings. I've worked in sports media for the past 30 years. I'm also one of the co-hosts of Locked On NHL Game Night, a nightly podcast and YouTube show that recaps the night in the NHL during the season and the playoffs. Right now, we're previewing all 32 teams throughout the NHL. I'm also a passionate LA Kings fan for over 30 years, as you probably know. We are going to look today at how the LA Kings compare at the wing positions against their Pacific Division rivals. We looked at the center position last week. Looking at the wings today, we'll look at the defense and the goaltenders coming up in future episodes. But again, today, looking at each team's projected wingers, according to puckpedia.com, for this upcoming season. We're going to rank each team based on who will be playing on the wings. We'll rank them 8 through 1, and we'll also take into account what the players did last season and what they've done so far in their careers. And we'll wrap it up with a ranking of the top 10 wingers overall in the Pacific Division. By the way, if you are a fan of my face, which I'm sure you are, disappointing news is I've got lots of wonderful graphics to put up that will cover my face if you're watching the YouTube show, but fortunately you can get through it for just maybe this episode at least. So let us begin our countdown. Again, we are starting by ranking the groups of wingers for each of the 8 teams in the Pacific Division, and checking in at number 8 is the San Jose Sharks. If you look at the wing positions for them, they've got Tyler Toffoli, old King favorite, and William Eklund, a good-looking young player, as their top wingers. Second pair line wingers are Alexander Wenberg and Adam Gaudette. You've got Jeff Skinner and Philip Kurashev, and an old King, Carl Grundstrom and Ryan Reeves, projected to be on the fourth line on the wing position. So a decent top 2, Tyler Toffoli, 30-goal scorer. William Eklund, again, just his second season, he was top 10 in points and assists among wingers when you look at all the Pacific Division wingers from the past season. So pretty good at the top. After that, though, it kind of drops off a cliff a bit. Wenberg and Gaudette are not a good second pairing. They're at best a third pairing. Skinner's a veteran. Kurashev, still a lot to prove, and the fourth pairing on the wings of Grundstrom and Reeves is pretty terrible. Now, granted, neither of them played a full 82 games last season, partly because of performance, partly because of maybe some injury issues, but they combined for a total of 11 points last year. So that's not a great group. The top wingers on the top line are not bad, but after that, it's not very good. And that's why the San Jose Sharks are checking in at number 8. Look who's at number 7. And I think this is absolutely where they should be. And that is the Edmonton Oilers. Man, oh man, do Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl carry the mail, because their wingers are not good. Now, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins and Zach Hyman, they're solid on the wings on the top line. Veteran guys, yeah, their best days may have come and gone, but they're still good players. Zach Hyman was 7th in goal scoring amongst all wingers in the Pacific Division last year, so they're fine. But man, after that, it even drops off, I think, worse than the Sharks do. Vasily Podkolzin and Andrew Mangiapane as a second pairing is terrible. And these guys played almost every game last year, and the numbers are really bad. Again, this is not a second pairing on a contending team, unless, of course, you have the top 2 centers in the NHL, at which the Oilers do. So those 2 guys can make up for a lot of shortcomings in the lineup. But yeah, And then you've got Trent Frederick and Matt Savoy as your wingers on the third pairing. Now, Frederick, he's a rugged guy, but he doesn't provide much offense. He had just 15 points last year. Matt Savoy's 21 years old. He's played 4 games in the NHL, so you really don't know what you're getting there. Isaac Howard is a guy they traded for from the Tampa Bay Lightning. He's a former first-round pick. Didn't want to sign with Tampa Bay. He won the Hobie Baker Trophy as the top college player. So he could turn into be a good player. We just don't know what he can do at the NHL level next. But they're going to start him out apparently on the fourth line just to get his feet wet. So we'll see what happens there. And then Kasperi Kapanen is a fourth line guy and not a great fourth line guy at that. So, and look, guys like Trent Frederick and Kasperi Kapanen did step up their game in the playoffs, and that's what matters. But when you look at this lineup, the top line wingers are pretty good. But after that, it's pretty awful. So the Oilers, in my opinion, have the second to last worst group of wingers in the Pacific Division. Checking in at number 6 is the Calgary Flames. Pretty solid, one of the top wingers in the Pacific Division. And Jonathan Huberdeau, he's top 10 in points and goals a year ago if you're ranking all the Pacific Division wingers. But Connor Zary, checking in on the other wing, has he had a bad season last year. Now he played 54 games, so he missed some time. He's 23 years old, but 27 points from your top winger, one of your top line wingers, that's not good. So he will need to have a good season to bounce back and make the wingers on the top line for Calgary solid. You've got one good player and one very unproven player. Blake Coleman and Matt Coronado are a nice second pairing. Pretty good. Coronado was 9th among Pacific Division wingers in goals scored last year. I like Yegor Sharangovich as a third line winger. Joel Farabee doesn't do much for you. And then you've got a fourth line set of wingers in Ryan Lomberg, who's a guy who's going to hit you and do a lot of other things, but he's not going to do much points-wise, just 13 points in 80 games last year. And Adam Klapka is a guy who knows, 31 games. He's 24 years old. So a lot to prove there. But Calgary checks in for me at number 6. At number 5, we have the Seattle Kraken. Some good veteran players here. Jaden Schwartz and Capo Caco on the top line as far as the wingers go. Capo Caco was 9th in assists amongst Pacific Division wingers a year ago, and only didn't play the entire season. Well, 79 games, pretty much. But he's not much of a goal scorer, but he can assist. Jared McCann is a solid winger on the second line. He was 6th in points, 5th in assists amongst wingers in the Pacific Division last year. Jordan Eberle, solid veteran. He's the captain for the Kraken. He only played 42 games last year due to injury, so he will likely, if healthy, have a bounce back year. It's not there's not like neither of these sets of wings, really stands out, but they're both solid. I really like the third pairing. Mason Marchment, who they picked up from Dallas, is a solid third line guy. 22 goals from him a year ago, and Ellie Tolvanen had 23 goals. So you're getting 45 goals from your third line wingers. That's fantastic. And Marchment only played 62 games last year, so he has the potential for more. Unfortunately for Seattle, their fourth line is not good. Ty Cartier and Yanni Nyman. Now, Nyman just played 12 games last year. He's 21 years old, so he's another young guy getting a chance to get his feet wet in the NHL. Cartier had 13 points last year in 63 games. So he'll run around and hit people, but not too much there. So I've got Seattle checking in as number 5. So again, the top 4, I guess it would not be the top 4. It'd be the bottom 4, wouldn't it? In the Pacific Division, as far as ranking the overall wing positions, I've got San Jose at the bottom, Edmonton second from the last. You've got Calgary checking in at number 6, and Seattle is at number 5. The top 4 teams are coming up. Obviously, the Kings I have ranked in the top 4. How high are they ranked in that top 4? We will check that out next here on Locked On LA Kings, your team every day. The NFL season is almost here, and FanDuel is making sure you are ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet. Player props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. It's quick, easy, and the best way to add a little more excitement to Sunday. So, are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. It's FanDuel. Get there to place your first $5 bet. All right, we are checking in as far as the rankings for the top groups of wingers in the Pacific Division. We gave you 5 through 8, and now we're checking in at the top 4. And at number 4, I have the Vancouver Canucks. Brock Besser, a guy that I was hopeful the Kings might go out and get, is certainly leading the way. Top 10 in goals and points amongst wingers in the Pacific Division. Then you've got Niels Hoglander on the other wing, and he had a very subpar season a year ago, and he kind of drags the Canucks down here a little bit. He had 8 goals, just 25 points. You're looking for a lot more production out of a top-line winger than that. He did play in 72 games, so he played most of the season. Now, he had 24 goals the previous year. If he can return to form there, they'll be fine. Not sure why he had such a bad year last year, but again, just 8 goals, 25 points for him. Niels Hoglander last year. That ain't going to get it done. Jake DeBrusk, top 10 in goals scored last year. He had 28. He's on your wing on the second line, along with Evander Kane, who did not play the entire regular season, but we of course saw him come back from injury and be effective in the playoffs. He's also in a contract year, so he's motivated. So that's a pretty decent second line, I think, for Vancouver. I like the third line. I like Connor Garland a lot. 19 goals and 50 points for a third line player. That's solid. Kiefer Sherwood is not bad. And then, like a lot of teams in the Pacific Division that aren't playoff contenders necessarily, the fourth line looks really bad. Drew O'Connor doesn't give you much. He had 25 points in 84 games, and I don't know what to expect from Niels Aman, who played 19 games last year. And then again, another young guy who's getting a look for the Vancouver Canucks on their fourth line. Checking in at number 3, I have the Anaheim Ducks. A very, very solid third line as far as the wing positions. We'll get to in a minute, but it starts with Cutter Gauthier and Troy Terry up top. Troy Terry, 9th in points, 7 in assists as far as Pacific Division wingers a year ago. Decent second line in Frank Vetrano and Alex Kaloran, a couple of veteran guys. But the third line really stands out, and it's a couple of new players for the Ducks this year, a couple of veteran guys who have been there and done that, and that's Chris Kreider and Mikael Granlund. They combined for 44 goals last year, and that is a solid number for your third line wingers. Now, they just missed out on having the most goals from a year ago for any third line wingers. Mason Marchman and Eli Tolvanen had 1 more goal than they did for the Seattle Kraken. But still very solid. And Mikael Granlund, 66 points last year. There are several top line wingers around the Pacific Division who didn't have 66 points. So that is a very solid veteran third line group of wingers for the Anaheim Ducks. Very good there. Unfortunately for the Ducks, their fourth line is doo-doo. Jansen Harkins and Ross Johnston. And they're not young guys. Like a lot of the other teams will have some younger guys on the fourth line, maybe one young guy. You could say, well, we don't know what they're, going to be. These are 2 veteran guys who just aren't really that good. They combined for 10 points last season. Now, they didn't play the full season for whatever reason. I'm guessing performance was part of it, but Harkins had 62 games. Johnston had 43 games. I would say that's probably the worst set of wingers on a fourth line of any of the teams in the Pacific Division. The rest of it's pretty solid, but that's not good. The third line's fantastic. Fourth line, not so much. All right, so we're down to our final 2, and this was a tough choice, I'll be honest. And I think you can make a realistic argument for this team to be number one. However, I have our LA Kings as number two amongst their group of wingers in the Pacific Division. Adrian Kempe, top 10 in goals, assists, and points. There's only one other player who's now in the Pacific Division, who wasn't there last year, who exceeds those numbers. So Adrian Kempe last year from the wing position was the best player in the Pacific Division, 35 goals, 73 points in 81 games. He's certainly a candidate to be the number one winger out of the Pacific Division when we rank our 1 through 10. Andrei Kuzmenko, he was 11th in assists amongst Pacific Division players from a year ago if we took his season totals and ranked it. So he just missed out of being in the top 10. Kevin Fiala tied for the most goals amongst the wingers in the Pacific Division with Adrian Kempe, also 6th in points among the Pacific Division wingers. And you got Alex Laferriere with him. Warren Fogle had the most goals of any third line winger in the Pacific Division with 24. And he just missed out of being in the top 10 as far as goal scorers in the Pacific Division. He was 11th. He's got Trevor Moore with him, and maybe the best fourth line as far as the wingers go in the Pacific Division, and that's Corey Perry and Joel Armia. Perry, 19 goals alone. If you look at the total of all the other fourth line wingers in the Pacific Division, if you combined the wingers, both wingers' goal totals, all of them except one team has less than Corey Perry individually. I hope I worded that so you could understand it. So Corey Perry had 19 goals. If you combined the wingers, the projected wingers on the fourth line for every other Pacific Division team except Vegas, Corey Perry himself had more total goals than the two players combined. So that tells you all you need to know about that. And Joel Armia chips in with 11 goals. So you've got 30 goals combined from your two wingers on the fourth line a year ago. Maybe they improve on that. That would be nice. But that, again, that could be the best set of wingers on a fourth line in the entire Pacific Division. Checking in at number one, I had to give them the edge, and it's the Vegas Golden Knights. And a lot of it is because of Mitch Marner, but they've got great depth as well. But Mitch Marner, who did not play in the Pacific last year, coming off of last year's numbers, has the best numbers of any winger in the Pacific Division. 102 points, 75 assists, which is tops in both categories amongst any Pacific Division wingers going into this season. He was 13th in the Selke Trophy voting as well, so he's a good two-way player. So obviously he's the best winger to let the cat out of the bag on the rankings a little bit there in the Pacific Division. Ivan Barbashev is a solid winger on the other side, had 23 goals a year ago. The second pairing is very solid as well for the Vegas Golden Knights. Pavel Dorofeev, young goal scorer, tied with Adrian Kempe and Kevin Fiala for the most goals scored by a winger in the Pacific Division last year with 35. And then Mark Stone, the captain of the Vegas Golden Knights, top 10 in assists a year ago and didn't even play a full season with 66 games. Of course, that's the problem with him. He does get hurt a bit, but he's a solid second line player. A solid third line with Brett Howden and Riley Smith, a couple of veteran guys who are just very, very solid. And I said that the Kings probably had the best set of wingers in the Pacific Division on the fourth line. Right behind him, I think, is the duo of Brendan Saad and Keegan Colasar of the Vegas Golden Knights. They combined for 15 total goals last year and 60 points. So very solid veteran guys on the fourth line. The wing positions for Vegas, solid from top to bottom. And that's why I give them a slight edge over the LA Kings, but it's close. I think it's really, really close. You could make an argument either way, but because they do have the number one player in Marner, solid guys up and down, I'm going to say Vegas number one in the Pacific Division as far as the wing position is concerned. But still encouraging to see our LA Kings, I think, right there as far as having the best group of wingers in the entire Pacific Division. Up next, we're going to rank the top 10 wingers in the Pacific Division. We'll do that next year on Locked On LA Kings, your team every day. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it is a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So you stop just managing your money and you start building wealth. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, even plan long-term goals. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNHL for half off your first year. And we have a very important request. Locked On wants to hear from you. We put together a survey to learn more about our listeners and to make your favorite podcasts even better. This is your chance to tell us what you like, what you don't, and answer questions about our advertising. Go to lockedonpodcast.com/survey, lockedonpodcast.com/survey to get started. Everyone who completes a survey will be entered for a chance to win a $100 Amazon gift card. Again, that's lockedonpodcast.com/survey. Apparently, we did have some issues. If you tried it earlier and it wasn't working, I checked it right before I started recording. That is working. Lockedonpodcast.com/survey. We've also got a link in the show notes, and the QR code is working as well. I checked that before we started recording as well. If you're watching on YouTube, you can use the QR code and check out that survey as well. Thank you very much for helping us out. All right, we are going to rank the wingers in the Pacific Division 1 through 10. And just missing out in the top 10 is William Eklund of the San Jose Sharks. Good-looking second-year winger for San Jose. They've got some good-looking young players with him and Macklin Celebrini and Will Smith. But he did not make my top 10. Checking in at number 10 from the Vegas Golden Knights is Pavel Dorofeev. He tied with Adrian Kempe and Kevin Fiala for the most goals amongst wingers last year. He was top 10 in points. Maybe not a household name, but a guy who's a young player on the rise and one of the few guys the Vegas Golden Knights have actually drafted and developed. Most of their big players, Marner, Eichel, Stone, those guys all came from somewhere else. Defense as well. So they don't have a lot of homegrown talent, but this is the best guy they've probably ever actually drafted and developed in Pavel Dorofeev. So he's a real good looking winger. I got him checking in at number 10. Coming in at number 9 from the Anaheim Ducks, it's Troy Terry. He ranked 9th in points last season, 6th in assists amongst wingers in the Pacific Division. Just a steady guy. Don't know that he'll ever be a star, but certainly a solid player for the Anaheim Ducks. Checking in number 8 is a solid veteran player for the Seattle Kraken, and that is Jared McCann. 6th in points, 4th in assists amongst all wingers in the Pacific Division this past season. At number 7, I've got Brock Besser of the Vancouver Canucks. Didn't have as good of a season a year ago, numbers-wise, as McCann and Terry, but overall in his career, he's had a better career, put up better numbers than both of those players. And he wasn't bad last year. He was 11th in points amongst wingers in the Pacific Division, 8th in goals. So his career gave him the edge over what these guys have done lately. So I got Brock Besser, the Canucks, at number 7. Number 6 was a little bit of a surprise to me, and that was Mikael Granlund, but the numbers are what the numbers are. He is a veteran guy who has been well-traveled, played for a couple of different teams last year, is on another team this year. I think he was with San Jose and then Dallas, and now he's on the Ducks. So he is moving around. I mentioned him earlier. He, along with Chris Kreider, really good-looking third-line couple of wingers for the Ducks. He's a versatile guy, but I said 66 points last year. That guy doing that, we'll see if he can do it on the third line this year. But the numbers are what the numbers are. And Mikael Granlund, veteran guy, been on a lot of teams, but always productive, checks in at number 6. At number 5, I have Kevin Fiala of our LA Kings. So I think you can pretty much predict there's another Kings player to come. So having 2 LA Kings in the top 5 of the best wingers in the Pacific Division, I think is certainly encouraging for the Kings. Kevin checks in at number 5 again. He was tied for first in goals, 6th in points. The assists were way down. If he can get that back up, maybe he could contend for a top 3 spot, maybe. But still very talented. And, assists are important. I think they're a little bit more important probably from the center position than the wing position, but goals are definitely important. And Kevin Fiala did score a lot of goals last year for the Kings. I've got him at number 5 in the top 10 rankings of the wingers in the Pacific Division. Checking in at number 4 is Jonathan Huberdeau of the Calgary Flames. He was 5th in points, 4th in goals a year ago. Bounce back season for him after coming over in a big trade from the Florida Panthers, which he was not expecting. It took him some time to kind of get acclimated. And for that trade, of course, Matthew Tkachuk going the other way to Florida. That's really worked out for the Panthers. Huberdeau, though, year before last was not good. And Calgary was like, oh, man, that trade is not looking good for us. But he did have a bounce back year, played pretty well last season. So, and he has had a very solid career. So I've got him checking in at number 4. At number 3, from the Vegas Golden Knights, their captain, Mark Stone. He was 3rd in points and 2nd in assists in the Pacific Division amongst wingers from a year ago, a Stanley Cup winner. Obviously, a lot of leadership there as well from him. You may look at, Jonathan Huberdeau plays on the top line on the wing for Calgary, Mark Stone playing on the second line. But I still think overall what he's done in his career, what he did a year ago, I've got Mark Stone checking in at number 3. I know I kind of let the cat out of the bag earlier. And if you were just ranking it from last year, just what they did on last year in the Pacific, he'd be number 1. But unfortunately, there's a new player joining the league this year that we have to take into consideration. But checking in at number 2 is Adrian Kempe of the LA Kings, tied for first in goals amongst the wingers last year in the Pacific Division with 35. He was 2nd in points with 73, 5th in assists. He was the only guy that played in the Pacific Division last year that would be in the top 10 in those 3 categories amongst the wingers. So unfortunately, though, he's not number 1. Number 1 is a player who has joined the league this year, the 3rd member of the top 10, as far as I'm concerned, amongst the wing positions from the Vegas Golden Knights. And that, of course, is Mitch Marner. I mean, the numbers speak for themselves. 102 points last year, which would rank number 1 amongst any of the wingers in the Pacific Division that are going to play in the Pacific Division anyway. 75 assists, also far and away number 1. 6th in goals, so he can put it in the net as well. I love Adrian Kempe. I certainly think he's underrated. Mitch Marner is a guy who is a good two-way player as well. I mentioned he got some votes in the Selke Trophy voting. I'm not sure how Adrian Kempe doesn't get any votes as far as the Selke Trophy because he's such a good, responsible defensive player. But that's a topic for another day. Mitch Marner, unfortunately, has to be number 1. But again, good to see 2 LA Kings in the top 5. But as I mentioned, if you're just looking at the stats, Warren Fogle and Andrei Kuzmenko actually were very close to being in the top 10 in goal scoring and in assists. So that bodes well for the LA Kings as far as the wing position. So if you were ranking the entire group of forwards as far as what we did last week and what we've done now, last week we had, well, if you look at them combined, Vegas has the top centers, but they were 2nd from the bottom as far as I was concerned amongst their wingers. So where does that kind of average out? I have them, if you're looking at the entire forward group, I'd put Edmonton 3rd just on the strength of Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. I got Vegas number 1. I have them with the best group of wingers and the 2nd best group of centers. So they're number 1. The Kings I've got at number 2. They have the 2nd best group of wingers and the 3rd best group of centers, in my opinion. So when you add it all up, that's 2nd best. Edmonton 3rd. I would put Anaheim 4th. They were 3rd amongst the wingers in my rankings and 5th amongst centers. So I've got the Ducks at 4th. 5th, I'll go with Seattle. I had them 4th amongst centers and 5th amongst wingers. Vancouver, I'll check them in at number 6. They were last as far as centers in my rankings, but they were fourth amongst the wingers. So that kind of evens out to about 6, I guess. Calgary checks in at number 7. They have actually been ranked 6th as far as centers and wingers, but because of Edmonton being that weird kind of ranking below them, that's where they're going to fit in. And San Jose checking in at 8th. I had them ranked 7th as far as their center groups and 8th as far as their sets of wingers. So again, I got the LA Kings as having the second best group of forwards in the Pacific Division. What did you think of the list? Anything you agree with? Anything you disagree with? I really enjoy putting these kinds of things together. It's time consuming, but I actually think it's kind of fun. For you everydayers, those you listen to watch Locked On LA Kings every day, we will wrap up the week, of course, with our fan feedback show, your chance to ask questions or share your thoughts about anything going on with the Kings, including anything we had for you this past week that you'd like to talk about. Anze Kopitar, maybe this being his final year. We talked about some of his career highlights. We talked about Brandt Clarke being a big season for him this year, and will he get the chance to be on that second pairing to learn and grow and be, ready to take that big step? And also anything we talked about today, ranking the wingers in the Pacific Division. The email address to get in on any of that is lockedoneddie@gmail.com, EDDIE. If you're watching on YouTube, we welcome your comments in the comments section. If you would stay interactive with us on social media, X, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, we are at Locked On LA Kings. All right, hope you enjoyed this. I'm Eddie Garcia. Thanks for listening and watching this episode of Locked On LA Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Have a great rest of your day. We'll talk to you next time. And as always, go Kings, go.